Hey, good morning. Man, oh man, that music, that bumper music still makes me want to, drink pina coladas and sit by the pool and watch watch swans circle around the sky on a cruise, things like that. Which, we're just not very mellow as a nation. A lot of things going on right now. And someone who is not Chuck Mangione, but is a guy is Chris Cordani. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. I was a trumpet player. I'm more of a low brass player now.
That's good.
I got to see him
Chuck
in
used to be
concert.
cool. He was cool in it, don't you? I think Chuck Mangione. I'm not bashing him, but
Oh, I have a little Chuck Mangione story for you. He performed in
good.
Sugarloaf. He performed in Sugarloaf one day, and I was running a local radio station at the time in the Hudson Valley here. I booked an interview for the morning show with Chuck Mangione.
Yeah,
So we got that all ready to go. It was the day of the concert. We're in the middle of the morning show the day before, and we have a call in, a number we didn't see, but we usually take calls. And there's very little screening when it comes to local stations because you can't
I
afford
know.
a
No
background screening.
manpower.
So we put him right
Right.
on the air, and he says, "Hi." So what's going on? He says, It's Chuck Mangione." Oh well.
Ah,
He goes, "Oh no, am I a day early?" It's a day early. He says, "All right, I'll talk to you tomorrow." We got to promote the interview for the next day. That was kind of fun.
that is
But
funny.
but it was
That
a
is funny.
fantastic concert. Most people know "Feels So Good," the hit song. He calls it the song that put his kids through college. Honestly, all of his music is fantastic. I'm a low brass player. I started at trumpet, but I guess my lips are a little bigger for that, and I play the baritone. Nobody ever got famous playing the baritone.
That's true. No, I used to. The flugelhorn is always interesting. Flugelhorn. Some friends of
I
mine played the flugelhorn. I played the trumpet in middle school.
I played
I
the sousaphone, the tuba,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
baritone, the trombone, and the valve trombone too. By the way, of
yeah.
trumpet and French horn.
That's a lot of brass. You get
That's
some
right.
brass. You got some brass balls there, Chris.
That's right. He may be Doge may have big balls. You have brass balls.
That's right. That's cool. So no, I we our band director Vogel. I don't know whatever happened to him. He was a friend of Doc Severinsen. Doc Severinsen's still kicking, man, in
Yeah,
his
yes,
90s.
he is.
Guys
In
say.
fact, yes. Doc Severinsen.
I love Doc Severinsen. Yeah, he's a great trumpet player. By the way, his album Brand New Thing did not do well as I think it should have. He's got some great songs on there that were never hits, but Midnight Flight, what a great song. It was ahead of its time, and this is an album back in the 80s, back at the time when Herb Alpert and Tijuana Brass were having their rise hit. Doc Severinsen put his out. I don't know why. I like his music, and I'm not busting on him. I really do mean it. So,
Well, I got to tell you, speaking of doctors, the smartest doctor or pseudo or the pseudonym the guy with a pseudonym doctor in music history is Doctor Hook, because they
that's
were kind
right.
of they were a middling band. They were very good. I loved their music, but they found the best way to get on the cover of the Rolling Stone is to write a song about wanting to be on the cover of the Rolling Stone.
Yeah, brilliant.
That was a great song. The cover of the Rolling Stone. I was Sylvia's Mother is probably their classic, but cover of the Rolling Stone was my favorite from Doctor Hook and the Medicine Show.
Wow, interesting. Well, I was commuting this morning. I heard another oldie but goodie. Don't call us, but we'll call you. There
Oh,
was
it's
a
a
hit.
great one. Oh, how about this
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
How about the new anthem for the Secret Service? Saturday night, or we'll change
Oh
it to
boy,
morning, is all right for fighting.
that's right. Those World Wrestling Forum chick fighters. I guess they were both Secret Service chicks. Can I say that? I guess I can say that.
You can
They're
say
chicks,
broads here,
right?
right? Yeah, broads.
Broad
That's right.
chicks. Anyway, they were emulating the World Wrestling Foundation in front of Barack Obama's house. This is in front of Barack Obama's house, by the way. Run the tape, Chris.
Well, yeah, they were fighting over, I guess, who gets to hire the next chef. Look at him go!
There we go.
By
And
the
they're
way,
off. Get the
by the
hell
way,
out of here.
the background's not real. Okay, it's just funny.
Well, there you have it, essays.
Oh, that was hilarious. Did you see that? That was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
Another look at that. Let's do another look at that one.
Yeah, let's see that again. That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
We'll play that again. Let's pull it back again. Look at that. We'll take this sound. Oh, there it goes. It's really fast here, but the idea is they're sitting there, they're brawling. These two Secret Service agents, people are supposed to be protecting the former president. I don't care who it is. They shouldn't be acting like this. Professionalism is key.
So apparently the story, and that's Salty Cracker there, my friend Salty. Apparently one was late, 15 minutes late, and the other didn't appreciate it. So I presume the one that walked up to the car was late, and the other one, maybe she didn't bring her like her wake up Dunkin' Donuts or something, like, hey, you're late, no donuts. Where the hell are they? I don't know. It could be a scenario like that, but this is DEI at its best, right? I mean, this is
yeah. But honestly,
DEI.
It provided entertainment. At least it wasn't that dangerous to us. Now, Bill Clinton is a lot smarter. His Secret Service detail, all female, happens to be able to settle their differences in a mud pit or a jello pit in front of the Clinton home so Bill can watch. So he is a little more organized.
Oh, and they used to fly. No, they fly his Secret Service female team to Epstein's Island for shenanigans.
No, they're too old for him.
That's probably true. Probably true.
Oh yeah, we'll get in trouble for that.
I wondered. I bet you. I'll bet you that Hillary Clinton got as much out of the Jello pit fighting as Bill. Just saying. I think she doesn't bat for our team. I don't know what team she bats for exactly. I don't know.
I think she's more like. I think she's more. I'm sure she hatched, so I suppose she just lays eggs.
Yeah.
There we go.
She's like, you've seen that horror series with the little puppet face. What's it called? Where they put people in scenarios where they have to figure out what they're doing to get out of the
Saw.
thing.
There we go. Saw.
Saw.
That's right.
She's like Saw. She's the female version of Saw. That's Hillary Clinton. She's the female version of Saw.
Yeah, her and what's his name? The other guy, Podesta, set people up that way.
Yeah.
He's the fixer, and she's the jigsaw that just tells people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's her. That is her. So, but anyway, so there you go. Secret Service, bravo, Secret Service. You're showing the world what a bunch of truly amazing Americans that you are. And by the way, no better than to have these people on Barack Hussein Obama's detail, right? That's good. That's a good thing. So
I would say, let's put it this way. These are Secret Service people. I don't care what party you're in or where you stand at this point. Your job is to protect former presidents, the current president, and very important officials. It's something you need to take seriously. Do not take lightly. This woman comes in just because somebody comes in a little bit late. There's a fisticuff altercation. There's a row, a Donnybrook, if you will. That is unprofessional, and it's an embarrassment to the country. And again, yes, in front of Obama's house, maybe they wanted to fight over who got to be the guest at the next podcast for Michelle, because she really needs some help.
Well, she does need some help. Yeah. I don't even know how to. Maybe she can get Scott Pelley to show up, since he's like looking for things to do. Scott, speaking of losers and people who were late, Scott Pelley, man, oh man, did he not get the memo that this whole bashing Trump thing is passe? It's like, yeah, we've been there, we've done that, but nope. Wake Forest, right here in my own state of North Carolina. He was over there being a dick.
Yeah, we're going to play this. The problem is, Scott Pelley is. See, you're saying that the whole bashing Trump is out of fashion. It's not out of fashion within the newsrooms. These people still think they have a duty to take down Donald Trump when they fell asleep.
Duties in a diaper. Duties in a diaper.
Yeah, but Scott Pelley was among those who helped cover for Joe Biden. And let's be honest with you, he's among those. He's part of 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes did a great job of covering for Biden. These are the same. Let's listen to what he says. I want to pick this apart.
Let's hear.
But in this moment,
this moment.
Now, speaking to prospective graduates,
right here,
right.
This moment, right here, right here.
Our sacred rule of law is under attack.
Oh,
Sure
yeah,
it
I
is.
suppose so.
Sure it
because
is,
we have,
buddy.
yeah, we have potential felons prosecuting a former president, and a current president now, but at the time he was former and running. Letitia James, are you listening?
Journalism is under attack.
Sure
And
it is.
rightfully
Sure.
so. Yeah, rightfully so. They've been getting away with murder, if you will, since Walter Duranty on forward.
Yeah.
Universities are under attack.
Because a lot of them are now diploma machines. They churn out gender studies students and
Let me hit this.
indoctrinated brain.
Oh, no, let me hit this. I
No.
want to hit this. I want to
Right.
expand this real quick. So I'm sorry. Let me be very clear on this. There's no gray area here. If you are teaching hate, if you believe that you can promote the idea that that any religion, any culture is somehow due to be attacked, that people within that culture are less than human, that you can violate their rights, you can do whatever you want to discard their right of existence, then you're wrong, and you should not be funded. As a matter of fact, there's a number of folks now who are coming out with President Trump to go after Harvard. And I'll say this: we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Patriots, think about what $5 billion could do to all of the Votech. Chris, I love Votech stuff. I love people who want to work and do things with their hands, that want to be in their community and do things. Why not give all that money to, heck, we have a community college right here. Albemarle Community College teaches truck driving, number of things relating to food preparation, like they create chefs. Why don't we give that money to local communities? What do you think? Before we go on, what do you think?
Here's a funny thing. If you were watching television over the last 40 years, there seems to be there was a rising sense of anti-worker. I know there are a lot of lefties and so supposedly for the working class lefties, but watch, all these years, there were certain occupations that were belittled, made fun of. They're necessary too, but they were belittled, made fun of. First off, how many television shows have you seen a big fat plumber out of shape with his crack sticking out as a guest appearance? How many times have you seen that?
Exactly.
They're making
Yeah.
fun of plumbers. Al Bundy was made fun of because he was a shoe salesman. I mean, all right, the Bundys are supposed to be funny and dysfunctional family, but they always made fun of his occupation as somebody who was a retail salesman. Okay, they also had Cliff Clavin was always the butt of a joke because he was the postman. So
Right.
and tradesmen are always make fun of. Truckers are always portrayed, except for the 70s. Truckers were cool in the 70s, but they're portrayed as greasy hicks in television and movies from the 80s onward. And
Jerry Reed was a great truck driver, by the way. He was great in Smokey and the Bandit.
But think about this. There was also that rising sense of the mentality you had to go to college or else you'll never find a good job. So you're talking about generations later. Going to college back then still meant maybe getting a degree in the STEMs or something in a tech field like computers or communications at that point. Nowadays, people go in and get gender studies degrees. They come out and they call themselves intellectuals, and they think they're smarter than everybody else, and wonder why they can barely hold a job at Starbucks when they can't get an advocacy job.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff on X and what is it? Instagram, making fun of these guys and their degrees, because next thing you know, they're going to be asking, how many sugars do you want in that coffee, sir? At Starbucks at the drive-through.
Right.
Anyway, before we move on,
and they can't even work there. They get upset.
No.
There are people striking because of a dress code now.
And I heard, I saw that. It's like, what, you want to wear furry stuff all day?
Just dress like a human at work. You can dress however you want after hours. They're only asking 25 hours or 40 hours a week.
I don't know. I like the idea of the guy showing up with a furry costume head on. It would be interesting. Anyway, I digress.
Chuck E. Cheese and work at Chuck E. Cheese. There you go. Or Disney World.
That's right. You could be an automaton. So back to my point. Back to my point here. Well, some of them are, just saying, but my point is that we have to recognize that everybody can't get a degree, nor should everybody be obligated to get a degree, because we have a society of people who can fly drones, who can do computers, I'm telling you right now, you don't have to have a 4-year degree to be able to figure out how this computer works to put components in and out of it. You don't. I figured out. I became one of the pioneers of cyber stuff, and I've never had a cyber course in my life, not one. So it can't be that hard if I can do it, right? So
You still have to have the
anyway,
capacity to do it, but you don't need a
exactly
thing you have. It's something
exactly
right. I get there.
exactly. I ran the first undercover cyber unit, and I've never had any cyber at all. Zero, zip, zilch,
Hey, look,
nada.
Al Gore
So
invented the internet, and he has no
that's right.
intellectual capabilities.
If Al Gore can invent the internet, then you could have AOC be the first astronaut on Mars. Wouldn't that be great? Oh boy,
Uh,
oh boy.
Maybe Boeing
She
will
could have,
fire over there.
yeah,
Leave
man,
it there.
man, oh man. We could launch her off. We should send a note to Elon. Hey, Elon, why don't you recruit? Anyway, let's get back to Scott. Anyway, oh, by the way, but before I digress, because we're going to talk about NPR. NPR was whining about the defunding of Harvard yesterday. Oh, they do so many good things. Really? I haven't seen any. I don't think the Patriots have seen any. Nobody's seen any good things that Harvard's done. Just saying.
Keep in mind, Harvard and Ivy League schools were at one point the standard, the intellectual standard for people in America and around the world. People would come around the world to study there, Oxford overseas, or Cambridge or anything like that overseas, or over here it would be Harvard, or it would be Princeton or something like that, or Yale. The problem is that's changed. Aside from the stems, aside from doctors that come out of Yale and Harvard, that's a good thing. But aside from the some of the important degrees, they've found a way to make extra money by bringing in phony intellectuals. They call it. They want to bring in a diverse environment because they want to call it cultural enrichment, but they really just want to bring people in to come out with degrees. Again, these advocacy degrees, but they can come out and say, "Well, I'm from Harvard. I'm going to be a great community organizer. One day be president." Where did I hear that from? But
yeah,
these are for-profit universities as well. So, let's put it this way: these gender studies degrees and these activist studies degrees, they don't require labs. They don't require a lot of extra materials to be brought into the system. They're not like medical degrees where you need to have major internships. So you have to make arrangements with hospitals and things like that, or get cadavers in to look at. It's cheap. You have professors sit down, get tenured. They just yammer on, indoctrinate kids for a semester, then keep doing it. These kids keep paying money hand over fist. There's no overhead in these degrees. So they're basically for-profit, huge money makers. Colleges laugh their way to the bank, and these kids come out knowing nothing, but they become indoctrinated, turn into basically lifelong far left socialists, Democrats, if you will.
Yeah, and don't bring up Joe Biden so early. Him being a cadaver, that's premature. We can't talk about that.
Hey-o!
We can't talk about that yet. So anyway,
Let's go back to
that's right. Well, let's go back to this cadaver right now talking. Let's go back to Scott.
Freedom of speech is under attack.
What? Sleep the last 4 years? I don't see Trump throwing anybody in jail over free speech, but free speech has consequences. If you're going to lie, and look, once again, I'm going to go back to this. If you're going to spend 5 years covering for Joe Biden,
this is what they mean. What they mean is when they get caught lying, they don't want to be held accountable. That's what they're taught. That's what he's saying.
Exactly.
We don't want to be held accountable for all the lying we did.
That's true.
Going. Yeah.
And insidious fear.
Ooh, insidious.
What do you mean insidious fear? You mean Trump is an existential threat to democracy? Is that what we're hearing? Isn't that a threat? Isn't that fear mongering?
Is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts. The fear to speak.
Ooh.
In America.
In America.
I seem to remember that. That did happen. Weren't people thrown in jail for just showing up at a protest a bunch of years ago?
So, yeah, let me say something here. I was on, can I say this? I guess I can say it. I was on with Rita last night. You know, Rita tapes her podcast in advance. I know people are shocked. Anyway, it'll be out tomorrow. Anyway, so I was on with Rita last night. We're talking about this thing. Let me be clear, and people can check it out when I come out. Well, I'll post it on my social media. Rita's podcast. We talked about this. Chris, people in the military were not allowed to speak out against transgender policies, which they knew were destroying the fabric of cohesion within the military. It
Yeah.
was forbidden. So when this knucklehead gets up there and says, "Oh, freedom of speech," yeah, freedom of speech was completely trounced on and taken down like a gazelle by a lion in the Serengeti by the Democrats. It wasn't us. And so the folks in the military now are starting to come out, speak out about the fact that, yeah, we were held hostage. You don't even have to be a conservative in the military to have recognized that you can't speak out against the powers that be, the woke leaders who were trying to basically inject woke DEI policies on the military. So I don't, when Pelly says this stuff here, it's like, no, buddy, this was you. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there. Reed and I talk about this on our podcast, which is out tomorrow. Anyway, keep going.
Absolutely fantastic. And by the way, free speech is back now. So let's hear some more old Scott expressing his free speech, by the way.
Power can rewrite history with grotesque, false narratives.
You mean like Howard Zinn and his history is only made up of oppressors and victims, and that's it? No gray area? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the Russia collusion narrative.
Yeah,
that's
Russia.
rewriting history.
Yes, sir.
They can make criminals heroes.
You mean like Letitia James?
That's true. That's true.
And Joe Biden.
Yeah. And
look at this. Look at that.
Criminals.
Look, he's doing a Nero thing.
Yeah. In fact, they did make somebody. I'm not going to call anybody a hero. I'm not going to call anybody a hero. But they made a net positive president a criminal.
Yeah.
That's right. All they wanted to do was they wanted to try to disqualify Donald Trump. The Joe Biden administration and Democrats wanted to disqualify Trump. But
let me remind people right now.
Right.
Yeah, let me remind people that Joe Biden hung out with racists in the Senate. He actually eulogized Byrd, Senator Byrd. Byrd was a grand cyclops of the KKK.
Yeah,
so
a mentor to Hillary, by the way.
What's that?
A mentor to Hillary.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a hint. She was mentored by a grand cyclops of the KKK kids. Think about that. All right, keep going. Keep going with the. Yeah.
Power can change the definition of the words we use to describe reality.
That's true. And you've done that for a pretty long time, as a matter of fact.
Yep. Yeah. This is telling on themselves, really.
Is now described as illegal. Equity.
Diversity is not illegal. He's lying. He's doing that right now. He is lying. Exactly. He's misusing he's purposely setting up a false narrative right now. Diversity was never illegal. Nobody is killing diversity.
Nope.
Is to be shunned. Inclusion is a dirty word.
Oh, no. Inclusion is not a dirty word. DEI as a policy is counterproductive, and that's what we're saying. And these liberals are twisting the narrative. Like Pelly said, power can twist a narrative. His media power twisted what we talked about as a policy. They're saying, oh, that means you people hate inclusion. That's why the I is there, by the way, inclusion, because if anybody who challenges it, well, you don't like inclusion.
Did this guy work for Joseph Stalin at one point? I get that vibe.
He comes from the Walter Duranty School of Journalism.
Yeah.
This is an old playbook, my friends.
Old playbook.
There's nothing new in this.
And it's your playbook, Scott. It's the 60 Minutes playbook. It's the CBS News playbook. And it is mainstream media's playbook. Okay, rant over.
Yeah. So let's break this down a little bit. So this guy gets up there and says, the sky is falling. Well, the sky was falling. Was the media manipulating words and meanings? Oh, absolutely. Cheap fakes? What the what the hell is a cheap fake?
I love it.
Well, it's a short snip of Joe Biden being Joe Biden. Okay, how is that fake?
And the
How's
media
that
ran
fake?
with it, by the way. Yeah, power can change a narrative. Joe Biden, we saw him falling. We see him stumbling. He couldn't talk. Look, I still maintain the Democrats never wanted Kamala Harris to be president, ever. And that's why they kept propping up Joe after a couple of years, because they could have, after 2.5 years, said, all right, let's bring in Kamala because she can do the job. And then she gets to run in 2024 as an incumbent. They did
Yeah.
not want that. There's a
Right.
reason why the powers that be did not let Kamala Harris sniff the presidency, nor, and I'm going to contend on this one, nor did they let her near the day-to-day operations, a la the Wilson family, when it came to their
Yeah.
vice president. They sent the guy home. I'm sure that's what
Yeah.
they did with Kamala. Go out, just come for photo ops, and that's it.
Yeah. So I'm just appalled. Now I want everybody, all the Patriots, to recognize Scott Pelley is supposed to be a dean, not a dean at the school. I mean, he wore all the stuff, but God knows even they aren't stupid enough to give him a degree. He's supposed to be a dean of traditional media. CBS, remember, CBS had Walter Cronkite. This is Walter Cronkite, and that's the way it is. They have been doing this phony baloney stuff to the point of where I think literally they live in an alternate universe. What do you think?
Well, they live in their own bubble, if you will. I'm saying maybe not an alternate universe, but a universe that they kind of built around themselves, so they can talk about it with their very small circle of people, and they like to pat each other on the back and agree with them. But they're not. I'm not saying alternative universe, but they live in a world they built for themselves, a little bubble, if you will, a 15-minute city bubble, if you will.
Yeah.
So they can. And they want to project that bubble out on everybody else, but most of us who live in reality, who don't have to suffer the consequences of their propaganda or their policies, say, "Hey, we're calling it on you here.
Yeah.
You guys are sheltered. You're sheltered in the bubble. We're not. We have to deal with it. That's why we're voting against you."
So yeah, and by the way, I mean, this guy probably has all sorts of phony baloney awards. And I was talking to a real journalist the other day, which, by the way, Chris, she's finally agreed to come on with us.
Oh.
Catherine Herridge. Catherine and I
Nice.
were speaking. And anyway, so we'll have to reach out. I can't guarantee when. She's a busy lady actually doing reporting. God forbid she actually does things that the mainstream media won't do. Anyway, we're gonna have her on sometime soon. I'm gonna text her right now and see if she's available Monday or. We got 3 days next week, right? Monday, Tuesday,
Yes,
Wednesday.
we do. Yes, we do.
All right. I'll see if I can get her on Monday. I can't guarantee anything, but I'll ask. Anyway, I was talking to her. If anyone deserves awards for reporting, it's Catherine Herridge. She continues to even now break news. She's been breaking news about the Havana syndrome. And by the way, did you know that's related to Bill Clinton and Havana cigars he used with a certain intern? No. It's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke. Don't tell Catherine I said that.
Yeah.
Making fun of her reporting. Anywho, but by the way, they protected Bill Clinton too. Just saying, they are a protection racket for the left. They are the left's Goebbels. I think they must all go to Goebbels University and learn how to lie convincingly. Right? That's their job. Right? Lie
Goebbels and
convincingly.
gerbils. There we go.
Yeah, Goebbels and gerbils. That's what they do. They have gerbil parties at Goebbels University. It all works together.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, so there you go. That was Scott Pelley at the Wake Forest University. And I think anybody in that crowd was demonstrably stupider after listening to that guy talk. Yeah, follow the pin. Follow the pin inside myself. Yeah, follow the pin. She's excellent with the pin. By the way, she's like John Wood. She can kill you with a pin. Catherine, that is, right? Did you know that?
Well, she can kill you with the pen, at least. That sounds good. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that is. It's true. So, all right. So what's next, Chris? What do we got on the hit parade?
We do have a guest coming in just a few moments, but I did want to throw this in here rather quickly. National Public Radio is suing Trump and the Trump administration because they got defunded. Here's the problem with that. And there are real issues with this, and one of them is they're trying to say, well, we need this money, we have this money, and you're eliminating, you're disrupting our free speech. The problem is that's never going to fly for a couple of reasons. They're not censored. Nobody is shutting down NPR or PBS. That's number one. Number
Nope.
two is they're not entitled to taxpayer money. They
Right.
can run, they can advertise, it's legal. They can they can get grants, and they've been doing that, and they've been getting donations from people who watch them. That they make a pretty good amount of money that way. Thirdly,
Yeah.
the FCC stipulates the public owns the airwaves. If local stations can get kicked out or can have their licenses withdrawn if they're not serving in the public interest. One can
That's
argue
right.
NPR is no longer serving in the public interest, and the
Oh,
public
yeah.
owns the airwaves. Now, they're lucky they're not being shut down. But the fact is,
Yeah.
taxpayers, since they own the airwaves, should not have to pay for opinions where they constantly become, or let's just say they should not have to pay for indoctrination by one side.
Yeah. So let me break this down a bit more for the Patriots. First, NPR said for years, if you take the government money away, we don't need it. It's just a fraction of what we get. Apparently, it's not true, which we all knew was like baloney. It's like they get billions from the federal government. It's like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. So no, it's not true. Secondly, they have advertisers on their shows now. They do. And I listen to them, so you don't have to. And it's like they have Amazon. They've got I can't even think of all the different big corporate sponsors who now are on there. So it's like it's advertising. It's no different than listening to some other for-profit commercial network because they're shilling. They're shilling for these guys. So don't be telling me, oh, it's all we only take donations. You advertise. It's all tied to something.
Well, they get
So
grants and they advertise. It's a little of both. It's a lot of both. And the fact is, their CEO in public said the truth doesn't matter. Basically, she said that seeking the truth is counterproductive. The fact is, she wants to indoctrinate and use taxpayer funds to do that.
It's sentiment management. It's sentiment management.
And on
That's all it is.
And on public owned airwaves.
Yep.
That's right. We don't have to
so,
fund it.
Yeah. And so the other thing, now you're a radio guy, Chris. You've run radio stations, right?
Yes.
Wouldn't you love to have a 15-person staff who can sit up and do bumper music between stories on the news? Do you listen? It's like, I swear to God, it's like I'm listening to NPR and they got all this jazz and all this other stuff. And as I'm running around doing county commissioner stuff, I'll tune in everything communist. I mean everything considered. Sorry, I keep messing.
All things considered, not that
all things communist. Yeah, and
Hey-o.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, so I'm listening to this stuff, and they complain about the fact that we have production values. They literally put music between news stories. It's like
I have put together. I have been at radio stations that had something of a decent staff and almost a skeleton crew. And the fact is, it doesn't matter sometimes what's on the inside. As long as it sounds well on the outside. You don't need a lot. Like you said, you don't need 15 people on a staff to put bumpers together. Right now, and even with automation, you don't really need that many people. I know I'm speaking like sacrilegious to a lot of fellow radio people, but the fact is, nowadays, a lot of smaller stations or a lot of even larger stations, they conglomerate and they have a small staff. There are companies that give bonuses to managers for cutting jobs and saving money in a budget that way rather than getting more advertising.
Yep,
there are people,
exactly.
There are managers who get bonuses for firing people around Christmas time. At least that was the case over the last 20 years at points. And we're going to bring in Scott Powell in just a moment. I think we just lost him.
Sure.
We're going to get him back. And we're going to talk about U.S. dependence on rare earths with China. That's a very important issue as well. But that's a big deal at this point. NPR, it's lost its way in a lot of ways, but it now feels entitled to the public airwaves, and it feels entitled to the public trust and entitled to the public finances, which in fact, they really are entitled to neither.
And I think that's the thing. They became entitled. That's the key. They are like Scott Pelley. They feel they're entitled. So there we go.
So let's bring in a good Scott. We talked about Scott Pelley. Let's bring in Scott Powell, which we're going to refer to
good morning, Scott.
As the good Scott.
Good morning to you guys. I enjoyed listening to your conversation.
Thank you. Well, it's good to have you here with us, and we appreciate what you're doing. So, Scott, welcome to Wake Up Patriots. The Patriots are going to be excited to hear about this because we really do love. And there's my network. I work for Newsmax, so it's always good to see the Newsmax folks carrying this. So part of what we're going to be talking about today is the need to strengthen not only through smart economic development and commercial aspects, but this also strengthens national security because we need to have these things. So, Scott, tell us about your article and why this is important.
Well, it's quite remarkable when people talk about strengthening national defense. They think first and foremost that, well, we got to spend more money, and that's going to drive higher deficits and more debt, and that's a big problem for America right now. But a sovereign wealth fund, and we've never had a sovereign wealth fund. Alaska actually has a state sovereign fund. They aggregate money from the from the oil-rich resources they have there, and I think they simply take a royalty off all the oil that's taken out of Alaska, and that goes into this wealth fund, and that then is distributed to the Alaskan people. It's a tough state to live in, so they incentivize
They
people.
Get paid to live there. That's right.
They actually get paid to live there. It's not huge. I think it's $1,000 to $2,000.
Yeah, it's not a much. But it is something.
But it's something. But sovereign wealth funds exist. For instance, I think Norway has one of the larger for the population size. Norway's wealth fund might be the largest, and again, it comes from the oil revenues. And but we've never had one. But we have all these resources. 50 years ago, the experts told us that the oil and gas that we had in our country might last 50 more years, and then we would have used it all up. Well, never discount God's hand of innovation through smart people, and they exist everywhere, not just in Silicon Valley, but they exist in the oil and gas industry. The drillers found a way to drill down as much as 5,000 or 6,000 feet, a mile down, curve the drill, and then drill sideways. And now the horizontal wells are as much as 3 miles sideways. They're going underground 3 miles, and then they frack that whole line, and it's an explosive amount of oil and gas that's released. So now America has become the number one. We have more known reserves of any other country in the world, oil and gas. We are.
Yeah, and let me hit that real quick.
Saudi Arabia.
I've got a degree in environmental studies, and I remember the whole peak oil thing. It's like I was rolling my eyes at the time. I got this degree at Rice State University, 86. It's like I didn't buy into it. It's like, yeah, no, we'll be fine. Oh, no, we're going to be running around like Fred Flintstone, pushing our cars with our feet. It's like nonsense. And to Scott's point, we are doing super well. As a matter of fact, I said today on Newsmax, you want to hurt Putin, go to maximum production, drop the bottom out of oil prices. We'll do well. He won't. Anyway, keep going, Scott. I just wanted to throw that in there.
I want to add one more thing to this. Another way, and the other way to stop Russia at this point is to find a way to get European nations to stop buying from Russia. They want to keep waging that war, but they can win this war by buying from us when we produce more.
That's right. Buy American.
Yeah. So anyway, I think, I don't know who planted the seed in Trump's mind, but he earlier this year, he had an executive order establishing a sovereign wealth fund. He didn't act on it, didn't get much publicity, but it's there. And I think it's going to be rolled out. And I think what's going to happen is that we're going to get a lot of the value of resources that we have in America put into this fund. It's, of course, a balance sheet picture, but with 36 plus trillion dollars going on 37, not too far away, 37 trillion in debt, we are in very bad shape. Our debt to GDP ratio is up around 126%.
Yeah,
and if you added state debt to it, the picture in America is not good. So we need to offset that, and the way we improve our financial stature is, of course, to add assets and reduce the liabilities. In other words, we can't walk away from debt. We've got to service that debt, but we certainly have got to slow the growth of debt. And
Right.
ultimately, we need to get to a balanced budget.
Yeah.
So this is a step in the right direction. It's going to put, it can easily put $30 trillion on the balance sheet, on the asset side of the balance sheet. These aren't just the rare earths. We don't even know the value of the rare earths because they really haven't been exploited enough. But when we think of oil and gas, we think of copper, we think of gold. We have enormous resources. Coal is another resource. We have easily $30 trillion of assets that could be on the balance sheet of a sovereign wealth fund, offsetting all this debt that we have.
Well, I think that's a brilliant idea. So I have two questions to follow up on this. First, I couldn't agree with you more. I live here in North Carolina. I drive up from Edenton up to DC. It's about 4 hours. I drive by the, I think it's the Portsmouth coal. Basically, CSX drops coal onto this shore and it's the largest coal processing between rail and maritime in the world. It's huge. And right now they are moving mountains of coal, which I'm all for. I think not go do coal. But my issue with this, Scott, is that we've had the environmental movement do everything they can to detract from our ability to essentially extract these things. And I would say it's time we knock it off. I got a degree in environmental studies. I think you can remove these things safely. Why don't we just
we can burn coal cleanly too. We can burn coal cleanly now. We have the technology to do that.
Right. So why aren't we doing this? What's holding us back? Is it politics?
Well, it's been the long march through the institutions. The cultural Marxists have penetrated our institutions.
Yeah.
The environmental movement is captured by them. And coal gets demonized, oil and gas get demonized, and of course glorified are wind and solar, which are unreliable, more costly, and we rely on China for our solar panels. Okay.
Right.
How smart is that?
Well, this is where we believe it's going here. The idea is the left wants us to be over reliant on other nations. China's one of them, and believe me, a lot of these nations that they want us to be reliant on are leftist, Marxist, if you will.
Absolutely. I mean, the seriousness of China's threat to our country and the world is enormous. And, they've had this very successful Belt and Road Initiative, which they've captured a lot of the African countries. They're now capturing countries, to our south in South America, Brazil, notably Brazil, the largest economy in South America, headed by a guy named Lula, who's a Marxist criminal. He's cozying up to the Chinese. The Chinese have penetrated through infrastructure and particularly ports. They like to, they become the experts in, in improving port facilities and then managing them. They managed both sides of the Panama Canal until Trump stepped up and said, you're out of here.
So as part of and I've seen this firsthand. People don't recognize or know fully, Scott. I don't want to digress too much off this. The Chinese will actually send their goods to a third country, such as Panama, such as Italy, and then people there switch the labels. Matter of fact, Italy has made a point of actually selling Italian-made stuff. It's not made in Italy. It's made in China, and then all they have to do is put the label on saying it's made in Italy, so it becomes Italian. So
that depends on what family imports these things. So
that's right. It's been going on for a while. But back to so the other thing regarding wealth, and I think it's a great idea. I think the idea of having a national sovereign wealth fund. I mean, President Trump right now is talking about trying to find a way that we don't have to pay individual taxes anymore, which I am all for. I think one of the greatest restrictions we have is both corporate and personal tax. I think that holds back all sorts of development and investment. So do you think that we could go in this direction? Do you think that the sovereign wealth fund, just letting industry be industry, do you think we'd be able to generate more? I don't know, $1,000 a month from for the Alaskans? Do you think we could generate more than that for the American people with the National Sovereign Wealth Fund?
Well, I think so, but it's a combination of many things we need to do, and Trump is very creative. I mean, his golden visa program is a remarkable fundraiser, because a lot of people want to get into America, and we would like successful businessmen, wealthy people to bring their assets and their business acumen here, right? But the entry fee is $5 million that has to be turned over to the government. Well, I think we have over 200,000 people from foreign countries signed up in line, ready to go with with their checkbook with more than 5 million in it, saying that we want in on this program.
Yeah.
You multiply 200,000 by 5 million, you get to $1 trillion. So Trump has programs that can immediately chip away at this, at the debt that really does threaten our future. So it's a combination of a lot of things.
But the bottom line is, Scott, despite what Scott Pelley just said about, gloom and doom, we're losing freedom of speech, people still want to come here. So apparently Scott Pelley's wrong. People love America and want to come here, right? What am I missing here?
Well, in this case, this works in our favor. It's called the normalcy bias. And the normalcy bias, we all have it. Every society has it. That you tend to think about the present and the future based on the past. So the American past, we were the home of the brave, the land of the free, the home of the brave, free speech. That was what America was all about. They still think that, that's America. And it can be America. We need a revival, a renewal, and we're in that process right now. But our work is cut out for us, and I commend you for what you're doing with your podcast. It's very important.
Well, we like having we inform, educate, and entertain here. So we like having a little bit of fun and making points as we go. But I let's go back to one of the things I want to explore a little bit more with you is this whole idea that rare earths, because I'm a military guy. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel. I still advise, spend a lot of time on cyber stuff. We have an economy, Scott, as you know, probably better than us, that depends on having a steady stream of minerals that have to be used. I mean, I always like making fun of kids who think that we can survive by solar energy alone. It's like, hey, how many Naga hide couches can you make out of solar energy? None, because you can't produce material out of power. It's impossible. To that point, everything we touch right now, I mean, I'm looking at you through a computer. I've got my phones here. Everything that we have in a 21st century society, even if we don't go green, because I drive a car that gets 35 miles a gallon. It's a amazing. You still need to have computers run that car. You have to have these things all throughout society. So what do we have to do next now to encourage President Trump and the powers that be, the members of Congress, to really do what you're proposing here, to get back and develop all of, yes, I'm a retired clandestine operative. Thank you for reminding everybody. But what do we have to do to really push for this renaissance that we're proposing right now to get rare earths developed and sustained right here in America?
Well, it's education first, and that's why I commend you for what you're doing. Rare earths are a side story that most people don't even know. They don't know what they are. We are dependent on 20 rare earths that are used in our military, high-tech military. 20 rare earths. We're dependent on China. 100%. 100%.
Wow.
It gets worse than that. It gets much worse than that. You think about it this way: China and Russia pretty much control BRICS. which have 4 quite adversarial leaderships to ours out of the 5 letters. You got Brazil, you got Looney Luna, you got obviously President Xi of China, you have Putin, Russia, and you have, of course, Cyril, I didn't do nothing, Ramaphosa running South Africa. If the alliance gets as big as it wants to get, I understand the numbers will be BRICS would be controlling 72% of the world's rare earths as we know it at that point, considering they want to expand to there's about 20, 25, 27 nations that want in, and more trying to get in there too. Many African nations, South American nations, these nations with resources. That could be an issue in the future. We need to fight these guys for influence. And you have 4 very Marxist, communist, if you will, governments teaming up against us for world influence and resource influence. This is something we have to be awake to, and we have to trust the current and future leaderships to fight against.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So Scott, this is clearly to me a real national security potential disaster. I don't think we fully learned our lessons during COVID, because we recognized supply chain issues, which arguably haven't really been fixed. And at the same time, you have all these BRICS nations, and one of them is India. We have an opportunity to work with India in ways that I think we have not fully recognized, in that India has a 1.4 billion population, just like China, but we've got to start organizing our side better. What do you think? Can we get ahead of this and try to find a way to do this?
Oh, I'm sure we can get ahead of this. As long as God is sovereign and we turn to Him, I think I think the future is on our side. But we have to take our portion of responsibility. We have to educate the American people. We have to get a bee in everyone's bonnet. And I think that no one really wants to hear bad news, but if people would really wake up to the fact that our nation is in fundamental jeopardy because of the level of our debt, that our debt is unsustainable. We're doing the opposite of the virtuous investing that we learned from Warren Buffett. Buffett always said, I pick good stocks, they pay dividends, but it's really the power of compound interest that really builds the wealth. So what Buffett was doing was buying high-grade stocks that paid dividends, reinvesting all the dividends. In other words, not taking it out, but reinvesting the dividends. And it's like a turbocharger to the investment program. And it isn't huge. I mean, typically dividends on high-grade growth stocks are maybe 2%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're compounding at 2% every year and your principal is going up, and all those new shares are also paying dividends, it's a very powerful force. We're doing the opposite. We're compounding debt right now. We are borrowing more money to service previously issued debt.
Yeah. I want to hit that and back on Buffett for a second. Buffett is no friend of the environment. Let me make this very clear. One of the things that happened that Biden did to really help Buffett being one of the big owners of a big train company, you may have heard of it, BNSF, Burlington Northern Santa Fe. Right. So and check me on this, Scott. I think my facts are correct. The whole pipeline that we had proposed, the Keystone Pipeline, was supposed to basically take a lot of the heavy oil that comes out of Canada. It's heavier than normal. It requires a lot of refinement. But even if it didn't come here, to get it off the rail lines, because I know for a fact you have these massive unit trains of oil. These things are massive. And by the way, they take manpower, they take a lot, and they have to be moved. It's very dangerous because this is volatile stuff. So instead of developing the Keystone Pipeline, allowing for a much safer venue, they kept this going. They wanted that kill so they could use their BNSF railroad to move it. Am I correct on this? So
you are correct on that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And that benefited only the investors, but it didn't actually help develop and sustain oil production, right? I mean,
it is not as safe a means of transporting oil as a pipeline is. pipeline is extraordinarily safe. There are
Right.
very few pipeline problems.
Yeah.
They can be vulnerable to terrorists. That's for sure. But if a pipeline is
So can trains. So can trains.
absolutely.
I'll contend, and this might be a little far-fetched. I'll contend that Joe Biden would not have stopped this pipeline if, in fact, that came from Quebec or more of a left-leaning section of Canada. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba are heavily, relatively right-leaning when it comes to Canada. So I'm sure politics was involved as well, because Alberta can trade in Canada. Provinces can trade on their own when it comes to Canada, which is an interesting little idiosyncrasy. So I'm thinking there is a political aspect to this as well by shutting down the pipeline.
Yeah.
But we're learning it. There's a political aspect of almost everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So anyway, we got a few minutes left. Scott, what do we have to look at regarding these rare earths right now? So right now, if we go to war, if something bad happens with us in China, what options do we have to recover these rare earths? Do you think we can get our industry spun up quickly, or what's it going to take to make sure people understand we have to invest in this now?
Well, all the existing mines, locations in America that have rare earths need to be put online immediately, really.
Yeah.
And then we need to open up public lands for exploration. We've closed out 28% of the American territory are owned by the federal government, public lands, but they're really not owned by the federal government. They're owned from a constitutional point of view. They're owned by the people. So we need to educate the people that this is their land, this is their resources, this is their country, and that our country depends on having an effective military. And so we need to tap into resources that we have. And the first part of it is always exploration. So we don't even know the resources, I'm sure, the extent, the scope of these rare earth minerals in continental United States, and that includes Alaska, of course. Alaska is a pretty mineral-rich place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, but there's not really, we don't really have time to lose, and then we need to continue to cultivate and protect the existing trade relationships we have that are outside of China and the BRICS, and even countries within the BRICS that are friendly toward us. We need to remind them that the future of opportunity for their country is far greater if America survives than if China rules the world.
So I think that's a great point to end on. China is not your friend. China is nobody's friend. China is a communist nation. And I think we've made a mistake enriching them over the past 50 years.
Absolutely.
I think, they have basically taken, and the Chinese have always had a tradition of liking strong men leaders. Just saying, they have kind of this emperor tradition, which goes way back. So they're fine having a totalitarian regime at the top. Problem is this: we don't like that sort of thing. And I think we're going to come up and have a point of distance between us and them. It's kind of already here. I just don't think people have really recognized how dangerous this is. So, anyway, Chris put his article back up. Scott did this article again on Newsmax Online, right?
Yes.
Go check it out.
And check out Rediscovering America. This is a
check out his book, Rediscovering America. Yeah,
I wrote this 3 years ago, and it really tells the story of America, of what made us a great country. And those.
First, do you have his book? Can you put that up?
I'm pulling that up.
Yeah.
So check out Rediscovering America. I think we have way underused our resources. By the way, Scott, I've always thought it was a very racist thing that the left would always demand that other nations sacrifice, like the Central African Republic. Oh, yeah, you have to do all of these rare earths for us. You have to put your kids in the field, but we can't do that here because we're above that. Is it right? I mean, they always demanded others give us stuff. Talk about a bad deal. So,
it's called hypocrisy, and we
yeah.
have a lot of it. Yeah.
I've always wondered, it's like, yeah, you want these Chinese slave labor to put your iPhones together. We don't want that done here. Oh, no.
Well, again, if you want to create a dependent society, you have to move the jobs out of here.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, Scott,
And
thanks for being here. Check out Scott's book, Rediscovering America.
Great to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And Patriots, thank you for being here. Another great show. We'll continue to inform, educate, and entertain as best we can. We're back on Monday, right, Chris?
Yep. As a matter of fact, I have some good news for people who are going to listen to Tracy Scott and what was that? Tracy Scott and George tomorrow. They're going to have George Papadopoulos with us, and I always enjoyed him on Webster.
I like George. Yeah. Are they going to have Grover on too? I've been seeing him talk about Grover a lot.
There we
in the
go.
chat.
Yeah, Grover. Grover. I'm a big Grover guy. When I was watching Sesame Street, I grew up in the '70s. Grover was the man. It was Grover and Kermit doing all the major MCing. Then,
Yeah.
of course, later on, a couple of decades later, they moved this annoying little thing called Elmo in there. They took up all of
Yeah.
Grover's screen time. I was hoping. I mean, Grover should have taken revenge a long time ago, or at least
I
did
agree.
something about
Are
that.
they going to have the
One
count?
solo. Yeah.
Are they going to have the count come on and help people count?
Maybe. What we should do is have the amazing Mumford come by and make the and keep that public funding from coming back. Make it all disappear for PBS. Anyway,
You guys are a great
That's it.
duo.
We're gonna
Let's
go.
do it again. Let's do it again.
thank you.
That's right.
All right.
Thanks, Scott. We'll have you back. We'll
See
see
ya.
you all soon. Thanks. Take
All
care.
right.